So is Rh-negative blood dangerous for your baby? Are you worried about whether or not you can donate blood if you have an Rh-negative blood type? Here's what you need to know about Rh-negative blood. The first thing you need to know is what is Rh-positive and Rh-negative. So when we talk about Rh factor in our blood, we're talking about a protein that lives on the surface of our red blood cells. So if you have the protein, you are Rh positive. If you don't have it, you are Rh negative. Now that is really all there is to it. There's nothing scary about either one. They both do equally good jobs at doing what their job is, which is carrying oxygen to the rest of your body. In fact, Rh-negative blood is very, very common. About 15% of people who live in the United States have Rh-negative blood. That means roughly 1 out of every 6 to 7 people has Rh-negative blood. Now earlier I said that Rh-negative was not scary, but in the past it actually used to be pretty scary. So up until about 40 years ago, we didn't understand what caused miscarriages. We didn't understand why some babies were being lost during pregnancy, and we didn't really know how to prevent them from being lost. What we do now know is that one cause of miscarriage is something called Rh incompatibility. Rh incompatibility happens when a pregnant person has Rh-negative blood and the baby has inherited Rh-positive blood from the other parent, typically the father. Now let's take a step back here and remember that the baby gets half of their DNA from mom and dad. So if the baby got the Rh-positive gene from the dad and the Rh-negative from mom, then the baby would be Rh-positive. But if the baby got the Rh-negative gene from mom and the Rh-negative from dad, then the baby would also be Rh-negative. So it really depends on what genes they inherit from each parent. If mom is Rh-negative and the baby is Rh-positive, then there is a chance that antibodies in the mom's blood will attack the baby's blood cells. And these antibodies can cause problems for the baby. So historically, if someone had Rh-negative blood and was pregnant with a baby who had Rh-positive blood, we used to think that meant that the baby would definitely be lost. Now, thankfully, we have done a lot to prevent Rh incompatibility from causing harm to babies. So if you're pregnant and you have Rh-negative blood, the doctor will draw a little bit of your blood and send it off to the lab to check what your antibody screen is. Antibody screen just checks to see if you have any antibodies against Rh factor floating around in your bloodstream. If you don't have any, then most likely you haven't been exposed to Rh-positive blood before. And you will continue to have that checked throughout your pregnancy because it is really important that we catch this early. The way we treat this problem is we give you a medication called RhoGAM. RhoGAM is a medication that stops your immune system from making antibodies. If your antibody screen comes back positive, then we do a little more digging to figure out why your body has made these antibodies. Sometimes people get exposed to Rh-positive blood by being pregnant with an Rh-positive baby in the past, having an Rh-positive miscarriage in the past, having an Rh-positive baby in the past, having received an Rh-positive blood transfusion in the past, or even having received an Rh-positive pregnancy test in the past. All of those can expose you to enough Rh-positive blood that your body makes antibodies against it. You might be wondering, how does blood type affect my baby? The way that blood type affects your baby is through a special process called the Rho immunization. So if you are exposed to Rh-positive blood, your body sees that as a threat and starts making antibodies against the Rh factor. Those antibodies are then stored in your spleen. And if you're exposed to Rh-positive blood again, then the antibodies can enter your bloodstream and find the Rh-positive blood and cause a reaction. That reaction is called the Rho immunization, and it can cause the blood cells to clump together and can lead to hemolytic disease of the newborn. Hemolytic disease of the newborn can cause a number of different symptoms in the baby. It can cause the baby to be jaundiced because the liver can't keep up with breaking down all of the red blood cells that are being destroyed. It can cause the baby to be extremely irritable, almost like they have colic, because of the breakdown of the red blood cells and the unconjugated bilirubin in the blood. And it can even cause the baby to be anemic because all of those red blood cells are getting destroyed. In severe cases, it can even lead to the baby needing a blood transfusion. But luckily, we have a solution for this. So the way we prevent this from happening is we give everyone who is Rh negative the medication called RhoGAM. RhoGAM is given to all pregnant people with Rh negative blood, even if they've never been pregnant before, and it helps prevent your body from ever making those antibodies in the first place. The only time we give it is during pregnancy. We do not give it once you've delivered your baby. After you deliver your baby, your body has already formed its opinion about whether or not it thinks that the baby is a threat, and we don't want to confuse it. Also, if you have ever received a blood transfusion before, you should tell your doctor so they can look into it a little further. RhoGAM tastes like a shot of whiskey, if you've ever had that. It's very bitter. It's very, very cold when they give it to you. So if you've ever gotten a vaccine where they stick it into your arm and then tell you to flex your arm, that's exactly what you do after you get RhoGAM. You get a little tiny injection in the shot. You flex your arm and then you wait for the next dose. You get another dose of RhoGAM at 28 weeks. And then if you go past 28 weeks, you get another dose within 72 hours of giving birth. So it is important that you tell your doctor if you've ever been pregnant before and you know that you are Rh negative. If you are Rh negative and you have not had a chance to get your RhoGAM, but you're thinking I'm pregnant, I'm going to go ahead and get it, you can do that. However, it needs to be within 72 hours of exposure to Rh positive blood. So if you've already been exposed and it's been more than 72 hours, then unfortunately that won't help. It's also important to note that if you are breastfeeding, you do not need to stop breastfeeding. You can continue to breastfeed as long as the baby is not having any issues. And I always recommend continuing to breastfeed as long as mom and baby are comfortable with it. So as you can see, Rh negative blood isn't anything to be scared about. It just requires a little bit of extra monitoring during pregnancy. So hopefully this reassured you that if you have Rh negative blood, you can still have a healthy and happy pregnancy with a healthy and happy baby. Thank you so much for being here today. If you like this video, please make sure you share it with your friends so they can learn a little bit more about Rh negative blood and how it affects pregnancy. And make sure you subscribe. Every week, we're posting new videos to help you learn more about your body, pregnancy, newborns, and everything else in between. If you enjoyed this, you might also like my video on what to expect at your first prenatal appointment. So until next time, stay happy and healthy.